So, what do you do when a community is so completely broken, so eaten up by conflict that even the Buddha himself gets told to, just stay away? It sounds wild, but this incredible story from an ancient text has some seriously profound lessons for our own divided world. I mean, can you even imagine the scene? The Buddha shows up at a monastery in Kosambi, probably hoping to bring a little peace, and one of the monks just flat out tells him to leave them alone. They're so wrapped up in their own fight that it's become who they are. It's a truly shocking moment, and it really sets the stage for a powerful teaching. And the source text does not pull any punches. It describes a community in total meltdown. The original Pali words paint such a vivid picture. They were argumentative, quarrelsome, and literally piercing each other with verbal daggers. This wasn't just some simple disagreement. This was a state of war. And get this, he didn't just give up after being told off the first time. The Buddha tried not once, not twice, but 3 separate times to mediate, begging them to just stop. And each time, they shut him down. These monks were absolutely determined to see their conflict through, no matter how bitter it got. This right here gives us a crucial look into the Buddha's mind. Faced with this total rejection, he doesn't get angry, he doesn't lash out. Instead, he just reflects on this timeless principle. You can't fight fire with fire. It's a universal truth, an ancient law that these monks had completely forgotten. So what's the move when your wisdom is just thrown back in your face and the whole environment is toxic? Well, the Buddha makes a pretty radical choice. He doesn't escalate the fight or try to force his authority on them. He simply turns and walks away, choosing solitude over getting dragged into a pointless battle. And by leaving that conflict behind, the Buddha kicks off the next part of the story. He journeys to a place called Sadaya, and what he finds there is a community that is the complete and total opposite of the one he just left. Here, he finds 3 really well-respected monks, Anuruddha, Nandya, and Kimala, all living together. Apparently, their reputation for living in harmony was pretty well known, and the Buddha was really curious to see how they managed it. This is the question he asks them. And just listen to that beautiful metaphor, like milk and water mixed. It's not just about coexisting, right? It's about being so completely and seamlessly blended together that you can't even tell where one ends and the other begins. Just a perfect image of unity. I mean, the contrast couldn't be more stark. On one side, you've got the total chaos of Kosambi, argumentative and contentious, and on the other, this profound peace of Sadaya, harmonious, rejoicing, and blended together like milk and water. These are really the 2 extremes of what any community can be. So how in the world did they achieve this incredible unity? Well, it wasn't magic. It was a clear, practical strategy, a method that, honestly, we can all learn from. Their method basically had 3 parts. First, they were always actively practicing loving kindness, or metta, in everything they did, said, and thought. Second, and this is so important, they consciously set aside their own ego to really align with the minds of the others. And third, they had this brilliant system for chores that just eliminated arguments. They'd see something that needed to be done and just do it, using gestures, not words, to coordinate. This is their incredible answer to the Buddha. And it's the direct result of their practice. They had cultivated such a deep sense of selflessness and empathy that they really were operating as a single consciousness. I mean, that is just an astonishing level of unity. But wait. The story doesn't end with social harmony. After praising them, the Buddha pushes deeper. He asks if, despite all this perfect external peace, they've actually achieved the ultimate goal. And with that one question, the whole focus of the story shifts from a social problem to a much more personal, internal one. And the monks are honest. They admit they have a problem. They say that when they meditate, they sometimes get this flash of insight, a kind of light or radiance the text calls obasa. But just as quickly as it appears, poof, it's gone. They can't figure out why their concentration is so unstable. This is a question that hits home for so many of us, isn't it? Whether you're meditating or just trying to focus on a task at work, that feeling of clarity can be so slippery. Why are our minds so unreliable sometimes? The monk's problem is our problem too. So the Buddha, of course, gives their problem a name, Upakkilesa. This Pali term means something like a defilement, an imperfection, or even a kind of inner corruption of the mind. He explains that these are subtle little impurities that get in the way and just totally destabilize our focus. And this is where it gets really good. The Buddha then lays out a definitive list of these defilements, a list drawn directly from his own experience on the path to enlightenment. It's basically a field guide to the obstacles lurking inside all of our minds. He starts with some of the foundational issues. First, there's vicikiccha, that paralyzing doubt that just freezes you up. Then there's amanasikaro, which is just simple inattention, a failure to really apply your mind to what you're doing. Next is tinamidam, that heavy, sluggish feeling of drowsiness. And finally, chambitatam, which is a sudden terror that can just shatter your peace out of nowhere.
The next group is all about imbalances. There's upilim, or elation, which is when you get too excited and it throws you off balance. Then there's ditolam, a feeling of unease, almost like a bad conscience. And then he points to two sides of the same coin, a karadavirium, which is trying way too hard, and its opposite, atilinavirium, which is not putting in enough effort.
Finally, he talks about the defilements of desire and perception. There's abhijapa, that subtle or sometimes not so subtle craving. Then nanatha, which is what happens when your mind just gets lost in the endless variety of things, like scrolling forever. And ataninjayatatam, which is a fixation on mental images, where you get stuck analyzing them instead of just letting them be. Now here's the key part. The Buddha explains that he experienced every single one of these himself. The path to mastery wasn't about never having these thoughts. It was about recognizing them clearly for what they are, defilements of the mind, and then systematically letting them go. That's the secret. And this is the result. This is the payoff. Once all those inner corruptions are cleared away, what's left is an unshakable freedom of the heart. The Buddha declares his own liberation, the ultimate goal of the whole path, all made possible by this meticulous inner work. So we end by turning this ancient field guide back on ourselves. We've gone from the chaos of a public quarrel all the way down to the subtle static inside our own heads. This text really does map the whole territory. So as you look at this list, which of these patterns feels most familiar to you? Because just recognizing them, well, that's the very first step.